Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Fantasy Fullback Dive, brought to you by the good people at the Roto Street Journal, paving your way to fantasy glory, acting as your lead blocker to fantasy excellence, and making all your football-related fantasies come true. I'm your host, Nat the Truth Jones, coming at you on a Thursday. We are about to hit the 8th game of the season, which means after this week, we'll be right around the halfway point. We'll probably be doing a special show within the next week or so, give some awards, some things we got right, some things we got wrong, what we're anticipating moving forward. But right now, we just got your typical Week 8 preview leading into our Thursday night matchup. With me, as always, the Wolf of Roto Street himself. How you doing, Wolf?
Hey, doing well. Excited. We got the Bills, so you got some fantasy juice out there tonight, which is always exciting. I have Josh Allen in 4 out of 6 leagues, so big night for your boy tonight. Let's hope this man cooks. I think he's gonna, and I think that kind of leads us right into our preview right here for the game. Obviously, if you're catching the replay, this isn't quite as important for you, but hey, stick around, see how we do with our predictions. You can laugh at us, or you can always fast forward to the news and recap of the higher, lower, Hail Mary, all that good stuff. We're going to be diving into it, Wolfpack. But we got the Bucs with 9.5 points in Buffalo. Over-under is 42. Truth, you got any strong leanings on this one?
Not strong leanings, but my instinct, and possibly it's just because I would like to see it happen, my instinct is Buffalo giving the points and hitting the over. What about you?
I agree. I think Buffalo smashes them. Just such an embarrassing loss against New England last week as a Pats fan. Love to see it. Yeah. But they are going to come out fired up at home. It's a nice night there in Buffalo. Weather's no issue. Bucs on the road already kind of spiraling out, losing to the Falcons last week. Their defense is solid, so that's the one thing that maybe puts me a little hesitant to both the points and the over for Buffalo. But I think they're gonna smash them by at least 10 tonight. So I like Buffalo with the points. I get a little hesitant on the over, but I also could just see them coming out like gangbusters and Buffalo putting up 30 themselves tonight type of situation. So I'll take Buffalo points and over there as well.
Yeah. So I want to just say, I've been talking to you. I'm pretty excited about my fantasy team. I landed Amon-Ra St. Brown after haggling with his owner for 3 or 4 weeks to try to get this deal done. And essentially, although there were some other small pieces involved, I traded Raheem Mostert for Amon-Ra St. Brown, basically. You think I got a good deal, right?
Yeah, I think you smashed. You sold high. We got Etienne coming back for the fantasy playoffs. You're preparing for the stretch run. If you could get a wide receiver 1, I just saw 19 targets. I think you hammered it. Yeah. I know. Before we move on from the game, though, we should talk about real quick, Dalton Kincaid, the only active tight end for the Bills as well. I know we gave our score predictions, but this is interesting. And he was just about 40% owned heading into the week. He had been picked up a lot since, but just doubles check, scan the waiver wire. Dawson Knox is likely to be on the IR. So I think Kincaid, really intriguing spot for him tonight and what he could do. But also, I wouldn't be shocked to see Khalil Shakir, who had 4 targets last week, much less focused right now. I wouldn't be shocked to see him come out of here with a 6-7 target day if you're looking for showdown type of plays. Khalil Shakir seems to be separating himself for that slot role. And ultimately, with no other tight ends, I imagine far less. They were dominating with 2 tight end sets there with Knox and Kincaid. I imagine we see a lot more 3 receiver sets tonight, and I wonder what that does for the offense overall. But you got to love Kincaid, top 10 tight end easily tonight. Obviously, the rest of your Bucs. Now, would you start? This is one of the questions I kind of led onto the show with. Would you start Gabe Davis tonight? It's been abysmal the last 2 weeks.
We talked about it, and I mean, this is going to be my answer anytime somebody asks me a question like that is, what are my other options? I mean, I kind of look at Gabe Davis right now the way I look at T. Higgins, who I have on my team. And obviously, I know the potential's there. I know the talent's there. I know he could blow up. But more often than not these days, he sure doesn't. So, like Higgins right now, there's 3 guys I'm playing over him. And, only one of those guys like a year ago I would have played over him. And so I would put Davis in that same category.
Yeah, he's such a tricky one to figure out. 1 and 2 points the last 2 weeks. Right. But before that, 19, 14, 10, and 18. Had a nice 4-week run where I was like, maybe we got finally a little consistency here with Gabe Davis. Now he's fully healthy. But no, the real ugly Gabe Davis rearing its head this last week. They are a little bit more susceptible to wide receiver 2s, the Bucs are. Carlton Davis often locking down the number 1s, and we've seen some big days out of number 2s against this defense. So part of me thinks this could be, I feel like it's always prime time when you have him on the TV as his own game. It's where Gabe Davis tends to come to life here. So I have him at wide receiver 40, just in that like fringe 3 range that could blow up and light it up for you. But most often, I think I'm benching Gabe Davis tonight. I got like a Javonte Williams, Gabe Davis question. I'll side with the more consistent running back and something like that. He's always one that's so tough to assess, though, as we all know, because he'll be the first to make you look like an idiot when he blows up tonight, and I recommend you sit him. But I just couldn't put him in my lineups personally where I have him tonight.
He'll also be the first to make you look like an idiot when you are like, you got to play this guy, and then he has 1 catch for 8 yards.
Well, exactly. Right. Exactly. He's one of those
You're
guys
coming out looking like an idiot no
right.
matter what. Before we get into the news of the week, I do want to address a super chat that came in from Kevin Rice.
Hey, Kevin, thank you so much. Very generous.
Yeah. By the way, Campanelli did not bring this to my attention. What are you, asleep at the wheel, Campanelli? I got to monitor my own super chats now. Come on now.
Oh, I think that's on us. I don't know that we've actually put the.
I'm completely joking.
But that reminded me to put it up for Campanelli. We need our mod back.
I'm completely giving Campanelli hell for no reason. Thank you so much for shooting us some money, Kevin. Happy to answer your question. Money for a complicated one. Okay, so he's paying because it's a complicated answer.
All right, he understood. Yeah, he knows he's going to take some time with this. So I appreciate you, Kevin, showing up for your boys with that. I appreciate it.
So pick 4 of these, and at least 2 of them have to be wide receivers. Derrick Henry, Deontay Foreman, Alex Madison, Jeff Wilson Jr., I'm assuming that's who that is, Darrell Henderson, Tyler Lockett, Tank Dell, Calvin Ridley, Drake London. Some of those we can just eliminate right away, but I'm definitely starting Derrick Henry.
Yeah, you got to start the king. I know the matchup's not ideal on paper. I know the quarterback situation. Quarterback situation is, as I talk about Derrick Henry, a little puke came out. It just has been a little bit uglier this year. But no, he all he needs is one big play. We saw it that last game in London against the Ravens. Good defense. Most of the game he was bottled up, and boom, he rips that one play and ultimately pays off for you. So, yeah, I like Henry. I'm not benching Foreman either. We're going to talk about him in a little more detail if you're able to stick around, Kevin, in higher, lower Hail Mary. But 32-point day. Chargers defense that, they're much easier to pass against than run against, but they're not a good run defense. They're giving up the most touchdowns per game in the league right now, combined rushing and passing. So, to me, I can't bench Foreman at this point. But now we need to pick 2 receivers.
Then we got to go to the receivers at this point.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have picked Madison or Wilson Jr. over either of those 2 running backs anyways, but I do like both of those 2 running backs over all the receivers pretty much that you're offering here. I like Henderson too, but just sketchy. 1 week back looks okay, but not great. So Henry, Foreman, we got our first 2 here. Lock them in. So now we got to pick 2 of these really intriguing, but also what do we expect from these receivers? They're kind of like Gabe Davis is light in this sense, not quite as boomy or busty as Gabe Davis, but also a lot of pie can be put in the face. Do you have any? I have the 2 I like, Truth, but I'd love to hear which 2, unless you're just like, take it, Wolf.
Oh, boy. I would probably roll out Calvin Ridley, although I would be like wincing as I did it. And it's a tough I'm not going to start Tank Dell here. It's between Lockett and London for me. I'd probably lean Lockett, but I could see the case for London. What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, since week 1, I heard the stat earlier today. Drake London has seen 24% target share, and he only has 2 touchdowns, yet is still a top 20 wide receiver in that span for fantasy points. And it hasn't been anything huge because of the lack of touchdowns, 10, 12, 17, 8 points. He is intriguing in this matchup against Tennessee, such a soft defense. But my only rub with him is with them starting Will Levis, it could go 2 ways for
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean.
Because they could get blown out, in which case the Titans could get blown out. And if that's the case, we're going to get 80 combined carries for this Falcons team. And we know how the script goes. That's how they want to play. And I wouldn't be shocked. That's kind of how I have a leaning this game does go. So I am a little lower on London myself. I actually do have Ridley the highest of this group at wide receiver 30. So I'm still not even super high on him. But Pittsburgh is the most generous team, 2 wide receiver 1s. Christian Kirk maybe is the wide receiver 1 here at this point. Anyways, I do have him slightly higher. But I think Ridley, he just feels a little bit overdue. I know it's tricky because 5 and 1 points. He's been a real dud. I actually do like Tank Dell the second most, though, myself.
Really?
Lockett with the injury, with the Cleveland matchup, who have been brutal for wide receivers, especially outside ones. I like Tank Dell, actually. No Robert Woods this week. coming off that game of the concussion. We'll talk about him too in higher, lower Hail Mary. But his 3 of his last healthy games, 2 of them were monster 20-point days. The game he got hurt in, he had 6 points in the first quarter. It looked like he was due for another blow up. He had that one dud against Pittsburgh, but was really just a 20% plus target share guy for multiple weeks in a row and thrived with it. We had CJ Stroud narrative. So I actually really like Tank Dell. No surprise to any longtime viewers that I've always been a huge Tank Dell guy, but I'm +6 ECR on him. I have Calvin Ridley actually -2 ECR, but still out of the rest of these options, he's the highest for me. So I'm going to go those first 2 running backs, Henry, Foreman, and then I'm going to go Tank Dell and Calvin Ridley. But man, like if you think that the Falcons can hang, or rather the Titans can hang with the Falcons and keep this tight, London's in a great spot against a really bad secondary. So it's tricky, but to me, Lockett's just kind of off the list right now, banged up, not playing great anyways. He might not even play, so this might not even be part of the question. So.
Well, if he's not playing, I would go London over Tank Dell. But anyway, either way, we agree on 3 out of 4.
Yeah. All righty, Kevin. So let us know who you decide. Thank you, Ben, so much for your super chat, my man. So appreciated.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. Before we get into it, we're about to start hitting the news, doing a little back and forth. So give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a thumbs up, whatever currency your social media that you're watching on uses, give it to us. We deserve it.
Hell yeah.
We want it.
Thank you.
We crave it. All right, let's get into quarterback news. We'll start with Brock Purdy. Still dealing with that concussion. Nasty hit he took to take that concussion, too. He did practice on Thursday. He still had to practice, so it doesn't mean he's like out of protocol, but it is a step in the right direction. He did not practice Wednesday. He still needs to clear the entire protocol to be back if he's going to play in Week 8, playing the Bengals. No player placed in the league's concussion protocol, and this is noteworthy, has played the same week, meaning that Purdy would be doing something literally nobody else in the league has done this year. They seem to be taking it extremely cautiously, which is probably the right thing to do, even though it's frustrating as a fan of the team and stuff like that. But if he doesn't play, Sam Darnold, that's right, Sam Darnold will be captaining the ship in San Francisco, and smart money says he probably won't play. So brace yourself.
Yeah. I'd be preparing for Sam Darnold, and that would impact most of the fantasy products. Although I think Sam Darnold can actually get it done. We'll talk about him in higher, lower, Hail Mary, and we know what section he'll fall under later tonight. Kyler Murray removed from the injury report. Now, this does not guarantee he's going to start this week, but you got to feel great about him potentially being out there as early as next week and maybe even this week. It's great to see that he's progressing as well as he is. I know you wrote about him this week, Truth. He's consistently been a top 10 quarterback in points per game every single year of his career, more often than not. He's a top 5 quarterback. Points per game, never been below 18 fantasy points per game in a single season. And again, more often in the 20 range for points per game. So I think he's got to be rostered at this point. And he's about 50% or so right now still. So go out. There's no quarterback that's going to have this type of upside on your waiver wire the rest of the year.
I wrote about him, and I went and picked him up off waivers for nothing right then, threw him in my injury reserve spot. So
there you
since
go.
I traded Prescott in the trade that I got him on St. Brown in, and so now I got Curry on IR, Murray on IR, who I'd much rather have anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
Pick him up. He's available. All right, Deshaun Watson. He said he knew his shoulder wasn't right after playing a few series in Week 7 against the Colts. Well, I mean, I know he took a big hit and got knocked out. Let's be real. He looked awful before that.
Yeah, he sucks. He's done. So yeah, you were probably hopefully not starting him anyways. It does help out the fantasy products a little bit with Watson out there, a little bit better for Cooper and more. But ultimately, PJ Walker's an okay backup, and certainly the team plays better with him and plays harder for him. So I'm excited. I hope PJ Walker keeps getting the chance. Screw Deshaun Watson. He sucks. Jimmy Garoppolo returns to practice on Thursday, expected to play in Monday Night Football. Ideally, with no teams on bye, you don't necessarily have to start Garoppolo, but in 2 QB leagues, or if you're desperate, I actually really like the spot against Detroit, giving up the 8th most points to quarterbacks.
Yeah, I don't know. I love that. If you're in 2 quarterback leagues or if you're desperate. Right. Yeah. That's the ringing endorsement. Giants reporter said that he believes the team is heading towards another Tyrod Taylor start for Week 8 against the Jets. Unclear to me. I mean, I know what they're saying is that it would be that Jones isn't ready yet. Unclear to me if that would be because Jones is unable to play or because Tyrod Taylor just kind of objectively has looked better behind center than Jones. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think they're going to really take their time with this neck injury because Taylor does look significantly better, more poised, great deep ball right now. I think they're going to keep rolling this out and milking the neck injury for all they can. at this point. Yeah, we're going to move on to running backs, but we did get a super chat from one of our best fans out there. Charlie Menolakis doesn't miss a show ever. Great to see you, Charlie. What can we do for you?
Quarterbacks are murky. Oh, wait, accused murky. Start 2, Lockett, Higgins, Gabe, and Tank. Okay, I remember I compared Gabe to Higgins earlier. So you probably like Tank Dell the best out of this group.
I do. I got to start 2 of them, but I'm going Tank Dell is actually my favorite of this list. And I mean, Higgins I think, coming out the bye, practicing in full. I think this might be the best Higgins we get. I know you're considering benching him, Truth. I actually really like the Bengals just fresh out of the bye. I think they're the ultimate buy low right now. You could get in on Higgins, especially real low. I think I could see him really turning the season around, starting with a big game against San Fran, who is much easier to pass against than run against. I think they're a little overrated. We saw them get blitzed by Kirk Cousins without Justin Jefferson this last week. I think Burrow's going to do some dirty things to them this week, and I think Higgins will be a big part of that. I think the coming out party's this week for him.
I mean, I got okay. If you think that, or so would you start Higgins over either Courtland Sutton or Darrell Henderson?
Henderson's getting close. I like Sutton a lot this week. They're good against wide receiver ones, though. The Chiefs are. We'll chat about that one. That's a really tough one. I think I have Higgins below them right now, but the more I talk about him, the more I'm feeling he's back, and we'll see. Well, we got to address that one throughout the week. That's a good question.
All right, running backs. Alvin Kamara. He's got an illness, but he practiced on Thursday. This guy has been a legitimate, kind of the definition of target hog. We kind of joked around last week. We talked about what's his stat line going to be as far as receiving. And I forget the numbers we said, but they were kind of outlandish numbers, and he eclipsed the outlandish numbers that we said.
Yeah, well, we were joking that he's going to have another 15 targets, which he did, and then he had 12 catches, and we were laughing. Yeah, 12 catches for 24 yards, which has kind of been the staple. He had a for 91, though. He showed some real juice. Like that's as good as Kamara's looked in multiple seasons, and is my first extended look at him. So I've had a complete 180 on him, and I think he deserves to be a top 5 back every single week moving forward. You guys know you need to start him at this point, but man, what an insane workload this guy's getting. That was with Jamal Williams back too.
All Carr does is check down, and Kamara, he's throwing to him 3 yards down the field. It seems like 40% of the plays. So
yeah,
all he's got to do is break one or two.
Exactly. He showed the juice to break him last week. That's for sure. Aaron Jones back to practice, but limited kind of this week, a little bit sore. Makes me a little hesitant on the guy. I love Aaron Jones, the player, but when he's banged up, we've seen these things linger, and it's certainly lingering right now, and I have my doubts about him this week. We'll address those later.
David Montgomery, that rib injury that he suffered, he will not be practicing. He did not practice today. And this is the first practice of their week as they're getting ready for their Monday night tilt against the Raiders. He does have a little bit extra time, so it is possible he could be ready to go by Monday. But the coach, Dan Campbell, did say last week he expects him to be out a little bit, which I took at the time to mean he's going to miss multiple games. I don't expect to see Montgomery on Monday, but it has not been ruled out yet.
Yeah, and they do have the bye week coming up next week, so another reason why they might be cautious, hold him out. I would not expect to have him. Certainly have your backup plan. Unfortunately, Craig Reynolds does not look like a great one after Jahmyr Gibbs dominated all the snaps and touches. We talked about him in the recap show last week. It does not seem like there's a real great alternative at running back, at least, so maybe a flex play. If you really need to wait it out on against the Raiders there. Roschon Johnson clearing league's concussion protocol after a couple weeks now. That was a tricky one there, but who knows what his exact role will be. Donta Foreman really establishing a physical identity. His team seeming to rally around it as well last week. I'd be stunned if Roschon sees even close to as much work as Foreman this week, but he was the preferred guy early in the season. He is the hand-selected guy. Tricky, but I would not start him. I am intrigued by Foreman, that's for sure.
Miles Sanders was a full participant in Thursday's practice. Yay. Let's throw a parade for this guy. Chuba Hubbard has eaten into the workload quite a bit, obviously, in his absence. I don't know exactly how the backfield is going to play out between the two of them. I'm not interested in either one of them. And I think especially I'm not interested in Miles Sanders.
No, I actually prefer Chuba Hubbard. He's showed much more juice in his start last week, or 2 weeks ago, rather. They were on the bye this last week. Looked really good. He had 14 points in the first half. I really like Chuba Hubbard as a player right now, certainly showing more than Miles Sanders. It makes it a tricky backfield, though, regardless. And then Kareem Hunt back to practice, should be the number one running back here. Pierre Strong, definitely an intriguing guy, too, behind him, with Jerome Ford at least missing a week, potentially 2 to 3. definitely Kareem Hunt, a very startable guy in their absence.
Moving on to wide receivers, Tyreek Hill dealing with a hip injury says he will be playing in Week 8 against the Patriots. He was evidently, it was a surprise that he participated in practice because it had been hinted that he was going to miss at least a couple of games with this injury. Supposedly, the practice went off without a hitch. It was pretty typical. They described it as high intensity, stuff like that. Obviously, if he's playing, you're starting him, and it kind of seems like he's going to play.
Seems like we're trending that way. That scare that you had yesterday, you can at least breathe that sigh of relief. Christian Watson, full participant on Thursday. Oh, God. He's just roaming and waiting to break out, but man, I've been waiting for it for a while this year, waiting for it for a long time, and he gets Minnesota, a very porous defense. I'm probably going to have to do it again, although I'm benching him right now in my main league for Tank Dell, and I feel great about Tank Dell, so you know that how that goes. I will come down more so Christian Watson versus Darrell Henderson for me. We'll see how that I end up picking there.
Christian Watson versus T. Higgins.
I don't like him either.
I'm starting T over Christian Watson, but I've never liked Christian Watson. You have an investment in Christian Watson doing something because you love that guy.
I have.
Yeah, and you have him even more so. Deontay Johnson, he's dealing with those hamstrings. You know how I hate those hamstrings. He didn't practice on Thursday, which is not too great because didn't he just get off basically the IR because of a hamstring issue? Right.
First game back, another injury. Oh, horrible to see. George Pickens already, even in their shared time on the field, was the true wide receiver one there. And part of the reason I love Tank Dell, as we heard earlier, Robert Woods expected to miss this game against the Panthers. He's been among the team high in routes and targets, even though he hasn't done much with them. So just opening a nice gaping value opportunity for Tank Dell and the other wide receivers there, Nico Collins and co.
See, Zay Jones closing out the wide receivers. He remains sidelined for Thursday's practice. This is his 5th absence in the past 6 weeks, and it was just kind of like it seems like the Jags probably should have put him on IR.
Yeah, at this point, definitely. Last but not least, tight ends. And the only note we have right now is Luke Musgrave did not practice on Thursday. Seems to be trending the wrong way, seen in a walking boot last time out there. So I do not expect him out there against the Vikings. No real strong step up in his absence, but maybe that just means more targets for Romeo Doubs, for Christian Watson and co there. And that wraps up all the news we got. I don't believe we missed any notes there. But if you guys have anything that you think we missed, please do comment it on in. We'd be happy to discuss it and cover it. And as you know, on Sunday, me and my man CJ will cover all the latest updates, who's actually in and out based on what we've talked about today too.
All right, higher, lower, and Hail Mary. We'll start with quarterbacks, and we'll start with higher. There's 2 guys that you're a little higher on, and those are Joe Burrow. You like him at quarterback 8 coming off that bye week, even though he's playing San Fran. The experts like him at 10. And Derek Carr at the Colts. You like him at 16. The experts actually are all the way down at 20 on Derek Carr.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to give a couple QB1 and QB2 options here, depending on your league settings. But yeah, I think Burrow comes right out of this bye. As I talked about with T. Higgins earlier, I think they all just get healthy. They've now had 2 weeks to really rest. He was Burrow looking more mobile in the pocket, even though they had a great game against Seattle. He had a huge 374-yard, 3-touchdown day the other time out there. And I just think San Fran, they look tougher on paper. They're a bottom 8 matchup for quarterbacks, but they face nobody. Kenny Pickett, Matt Stafford without Kupp, who's never been higher than the quarterback 14 all year. Daniel Jones, Josh Dobbs, Dak Prescott, who has 1 game as a top 12 quarterback. All the others are outside the top 17. PJ Walker. And then you get the one actual quarterback that's playing decent this year, Kirk Cousins. He goes for 378 and 2 touchdowns. So I think this is a bit of a fraudulent pass defense, at least. They are a strong defense, a great team overall, but they are starting to show signs of crumbling a little bit, and certainly in the secondary, not looking great. So I think Burrow and them come out firing out of this bye here with T back to health, and just they abandon the run and pepper it away. So another 300-yard multi-touchdown day for Burrow. I like it. He's a quarterback 1 I'm starting without hesitation. Meanwhile, Derek Carr, if you're desperate for a fill-in right now or you got 2 quarterbacks, I really do like him. 4 spots above the ECR, quarterback 16 right now for me. So he's quarterback 20 in the rankings, but he's been the quarterback 15, 10, and 9 across his last 3 games. He's got 300 and back-to-back yards. Indy's allowing the 9th most schedule-adjusted points to quarterbacks right now, and they play at a very fast pace, allowing other offenses to get more points themselves, more plays themselves. He's got 105 pass attempts the last 2 weeks, Derek Carr does. So we know volume's there. We know the yardage has been there. He is so overdue for positive touchdown regression. I think we have it this week, and we get a nice 300-yard multi-touchdown, top 15 fringe day out of Derek Carr.
105 passing attempts, or whatever, but completions. Was that it in the
105 pass attempts? Yeah,
105 pass attempts, but about 85 of those were probably to Alvin Kamara. Anyway,
yeah.
Lower. Did you see Chris Olave got in trouble too? By the way,
I did. Yes.
And you said to the cop, "I'm Chris Olave. I play for the Saints." The cop was like, "And
yeah, your point."
tried to use it. Anyway, lower. Trevor Lawrence going at Pittsburgh and Dak Prescott playing the Chargers are the guys that you are a little lower on. You're actually a lot lower on Prescott, who is listed as the quarterback 20 by you, but experts like him all the way up at 12.
Yeah, I do have Trevor Lawrence as a fringe QB1, QB11 in the rankings, but that is 2 below the ECR right now. He still hasn't had a 20-point day, just one game above 300 yards on the season. He hasn't had more than 2 touchdowns. This is not the Trevor Lawrence year 2 Doug Peterson experience we all were hoping for. Pittsburgh is a bottom half matchup for quarterbacks in the past 2 games. Lamar to 10, Stafford to 14 points. So they have really been stifling it up. The rookies added to that secondary have made a big difference, and they're much more of a run funnel defense, more generous to backs. So I think a big ETN day is coming, and maybe we get a couple touchdowns for Lawrence, but still, I don't like him at that quarterback 9 or so ranking that the ECR has him at. And yeah, Dak Prescott ranked as a top 12 quarterback. Sure, was the quarterback 1 his last time out at 25 points, but that was against the Chargers. Everybody blitzes and bombs the Chargers on offense. They are giving up the most points to quarterbacks. He did what he was supposed to do, so you can't fault him for that. But after that game, quarterback 17 is his next highest finish. They've been run heavy. They've been slow paced. They're among the lowest in pass rate over expectation. It's the opposite of what we had been used to under Kellen Moore. So despite some good weaponry, despite a good game heading into the bye, I hate Mike McCarthy. I hate this overall offense. I'm not a huge Dak guy anyways. I do not want to start him this week in fantasy.
Hail Mary, Jimmy G at Detroit, 12% owned, and Sam Darnold might be getting the nod. We think he probably will be 3% owned. Well, you said about Jimmy G, if you're in a two QB league or if you're desperate.
Yeah, exactly. He's been serviceable. You know what he's going to do. He's going to dink and dunk his way down the field. He's been great with Jacoby Myers. Obviously has Devontae Adams at his disposal too. This is a good weapons cabinet for Jimmy G. 8th most points allowed to quarterbacks by Detroit. And this is also more of a bet on the game flow here. I think Detroit, after that embarrassing game against the Ravens, comes out at home. We know Goff is way better at home. No David Montgomery. I think they're going to go balls to the wall, bombing, firing the ball down the field, and putting up a ton of points, which will leave Jimmy G with tons of garbage time to clean up, mop up duty stats there. So I like him. He's been top 12 2.5 of his full starts. He's got decent weaponry, like we were saying. Really, actually solid weaponry. But yeah, I like Jimmy G. So if you're desperate for quarterback, I think he's a great 12% or fewer rostered guy. But Sam Darnold, you got to toss him out there, especially in those really, really super flex, crazy leagues. It's just more so buying into the Shanahan offense. I think these weapons, Kyle Shanahan himself, Darnold, he had some decent days with the Panthers in his last stint. Obviously, nobody that you want to rely on, but I saw him in the preseason. He's mobile. I think he could actually have himself a top 20 or so day in Kyle Shanahan's offense. The Bengals, especially if Burrow is going to do what I think he is and light the scoreboard up, they're going to need points too. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Darnold, similar to what Jimmy G did there, just gets the ball out and lets the weapons do the work there for him. So you're really desperate. Again, all the teams are off of bye this week, so you probably don't have to go that far. But if you need to, I do think you could trust Sam Darnold this week.
No.
Yeah, just scoff at me.
I am. We got a new. I'm assuming he's new to the show. We got someone named Cam Daddy. He said, "Are y'all answering questions?" We are. We're gonna finish the news and some of the Wolves predictions, and then we generally will answer any question football related that's in the feed.
Yeah, we'll get to them all. If you're antsy, you got to get somewhere. We do take super chats. We cut the line for super chats. Not necessary. Of course, we will definitely get to questions eventually. We'll spend about the last hour of the show answering everything we get. So yeah, get all your questions on in. But if you do need to get somewhere and you want to make sure you get your answer in, we do. we do take super chats and let you cut the line there for sure.
We're actually moving pretty quick. I'll bet we don't have too much more than like 20, 25 minutes to go.
No, we'll be there for your questions soon. Free way to help you boys out is that thumbs up button, guys. Please do consider hitting. If you enjoy what you hear and you like the content, it really does mean the world and gets us out to more people as we continue to climb to 4K and hopefully 5K in the near future. We'd love to have you be a part of the pack.
All right, running backs. Guys, you're higher on. You like Deontay Foreman. We actually talked about him earlier. You like him at running back 15. Wow. 5 up from the experts. You also like Kareem Hunt, kind of for obvious reasons, I would say, at Seattle. You like him at 22. Experts like him all the way down at 26. I think you might both be low, actually.
Yeah, and reminder too, when we go through these, I'm not just picking I'm higher on Christian McCaffrey. We're trying to get those guys that are fringe on your mind, those sit starts that you don't know exactly which way to go. That's the whole point of this, rather than just say, yeah, I love this top 7 running back that everybody loves and that everyone's going to start anyways. So of course, there's going to be some guys I like more than Foreman and Hunt, but I have them both higher by 4 to 5 spots. Then the ECR Foreman, maybe it's just the fact that he buried me in my main league last week, 30 points on me, but he was the running back 1, and you got to keep that upside in mind. 15 and 16 carries his last 2 games, looked good for the Bears as well. They've really just kind of re-identified themselves around that physical pounding presence, and I get that. The risk here is what if they get game flowed out, the Chargers come and knock the doors off them, but this defense has really embraced the physical identity of the offense too, and they've been one of the tougher matchups for passing games over the last 3 weeks. It looks great on paper, but they have actually been more of the stifling defense in the league right now. Bottom 10 matchup for quarterbacks in their last 3 games. So I think the defense might keep it a little closer, at least for a long enough that Foreman can get his. And I do think they'll come out really trying to run it down their throat, control the clock. And this is not a good run D. As bad as the pass D is, the worst pass D in the league. It overshadows the fact that it's still not a great run D by any means because the pass D is just so bad. That's all everyone focuses on. But with Tyson Bagent at quarterback, they're going to want to continue to hammer that run. I think Donta Foreman, yes, Roschon's coming back. But honestly, Foreman had 30 points last week, and that was with Darrington Evans playing even more snaps than him, which is shocking to say. But it's true. He was not even the snap leader. Well, he just got rid to the ground and crushed that defense. So I really, really like Foreman. I'm going to continue to ride him out here because I think that's how they're going to try to beat the Chargers. And then Kareem Hunt, running back 10 and 11 his past 2 games while playing second fiddle to Jerome Ford. Now he's going to have the lead back. That's because he's had the passing lead role there. He's had the goal line role there. So the most valuable touches have been Kareem Hunt's, but now you're going to add 5-6 more carries on top of that in this ultra productive Kevin Stefanski zone scheme that has always made quality production from Kareem Hunt before. He's always been a top 12, 24 running back as the starter through the past. So with the most valuable touches, with the production already very solid, back-to-back 15-point days, and then we get at least 15 more points from Kareem Hunt, and he can definitely pay off that fringe running back 2 ranking. I think he blows that out of the water. I love Kareem Hunt this week.
All right, guys, you're lower on Aaron Jones going against the Vikings. You got him at 21. That's just 2 below the experts. But I do want to hear what you have to say on him. I have my thoughts on him as well. Alex Madison at the Packers, same game, different team. You like him at 31. The experts like him all the way up at 22. I'll say this with Aaron Jones, you were really high on him in the Denver game. I don't want to put it all on you. I agreed with what you were saying. And he could not have been more of a disappointment.
No, huge disappointment. Got the best possible matchup you can possibly ask for last week for a running back. Literally the number 1 team in points allowed, yards allowed, everything. And he did nothing with it because A.J. Dillon saw 57% of the snaps compared to 34% for Aaron Jones, 47% of the routes going to A.J. Dillon. He's a horrible pass catcher and only 35% of the routes for Aaron Jones. And also 56% of the rushing share going to Dillon as well, 30% for Aaron Jones. And Dillon sucks, and yet they're still riding him out because they're not confident in Aaron Jones' health, apparently. Minnesota also tough against running backs, 27th in points allowed. I think until I see Aaron Jones get that full practice report off the injury report type of situation, I just have a hard time trusting him. And he had been one of those guys, set and forget, first week, running back 1 in fantasy. You can't have that type of upside on your bench. It is tough to bench him. I get it, and I wouldn't in every situation, considering I have him as a fringe top 20 guy. But if you have good options, let me know. Ask that in the questions because he absolutely has that non-benchable. You can't bench him. That is erased for me with him at not full health right now. The team just does not seem willing and ready to commit to him. And he already said today, my hamstring's still sore. I don't feel good. So That worries me. And I think I might actually bump him down a little bit more the more I talk about him right now. Alexander Mattison, even lower in that other side of the game, 9 spots below the ECR at running back 31. He's ranked right as a top 24 running back, and I don't get it. Yes, 2 weeks ago, 78% of the snaps, 82% of the rush. He was a workhorse back. But last week, he actually got overtaken in a rushing department by Cam Akers, who had 48% of the rush attempts compared to 38% for Madison. Also had 7% of the targets. They both combined and they both shared the target share there. And Cam Akers did a whole lot more damage with his touches. He looked really good out there, honestly, compared to certainly when you're used to seeing Madison just slug his way down the field. Cam Akers had some real juice, and I would not be shocked at all if this is a week, and we'll talk about like Devin Singletary and Dameon Pierce in a second. I could see a lot of backs kind of taking over their respective backfields that were running back twos entering the year, the backup plans, and now they're just better options than the starters. This has the feeling of that to me. I think Cam Akers, this is the week we really see him outsnap him and everything else moving forward.
Hail Marys, and this is another guy I wrote an article on, Devin Singletary, who you just referenced. He's going at Carolina. Could be a juicy matchup there. He's only 15% rostered. And as it says here, he might be the Houston running back. I can actually speak intelligently on this guy because I just did a bunch of research on him. You also like Pierre Strong at Seattle this week. He's probably barely owned by anybody, but I can understand the appeal of him too. Let's talk about Singletary for a minute. And this is just purely a product of Dameon Pierce being terrible, right?
Yeah, no, you wrote very well about this, but had 2.6 yards per carry his last time out. No game above 3.5 yards per pop on the season. It has been abysmal. He's had 97 carries, 9th in the NFL, and only one of those has gone for more than 10 yards. Singletary, conversely, has had only 39 attempts, and he's had 3 10-plus yard rushes on there. So already significantly more explosive rush rate, and he's coming off a game where he saw season highs in snap, rush, route, and target shares, all 4 of the major usage metrics. He actually had more snaps last time out than Dameon Pierce with 52% compared to just 35% for Dameon Pierce in a game they were leading the entire time, and you'd think that would be the script to favor Dameon Pierce. So it seems like they were already turning the keys over to Devin Singletary ahead of Pierce. We know that Devin Singletary is the one that this coaching staff brought in rather than inherit. And this might be the week, given that Pierce just is not a good fit for this wide zone scheme that requires speed, requires you to get up in a hurry. He doesn't have that. He's a bruiser. He can break tackles, kind of. Even this year, though, that was his strength. He's among the league's worst in yards after contact right now. He's just been a slug. He is not looking good at all. I don't know what happened to the kid that was dominating last year and showing some real juice. But Singletary, it never been a ultra sexy guy, but he's always just kind of churned and gotten it done. And I think he takes over this backfield. It's one of the top 10 offenses in the league in total yardage. And now you got Singletary, I think, takes over that lead role. And he's still only 15% rostered right now. Even if you don't have to play him, he's got to be on more teams than this. I love Devin Singletary at minimum as a bench stash. And if you're desperate in a pinch, I think you can absolutely start him. Was there anything you wrote about, Truth, that I missed in that kind of recap there?
I mean, a lot of it's rehashing just different versions of the same stuff. I mean, Singletary's yards per carry is not amazing. It's, I think, 3.9, but it's literally 3.9. Pierce has never, even in a game this year, averaged 3.9 yards per carry. So, I mean, he's doing more with less. He hasn't been overwhelming. The line leaves a little bit to be desired, but it's clearly not working with Pierce. And so I would be shocked if it's not at least a 50-50 split this week, maybe more. And Singletary is available like everywhere.
And the line's a really good point too. They've been banged up all year, but all reports are they're fully healthy out of this bye, and they were supposed to be a strength of this team. Lots of first-round talent injected, lots of money injected this offseason. So I am very intrigued to see what this offense looks like with a fully healthy offensive line for the first time this year. So, yeah, that's an interesting point to bring up, too. Pierre Strong, it's just all about the speed. This kid has 99th percentile, 4.37 40 speed. He's a great fit, was known as one of the best, according to PFF grades, one of the best zone runners in college football when he was a draft prospect, and nobody runs more outside wide zone than the Browns. So this is definitely a game we got Jerome Ford definitely out at least a week, maybe 2. Pierre Strong actually ended up leading this team in snaps once they had Jerome Ford out. He had 8 rushes compared to Hunt's 5. Now, we know Hunt is getting those invaluable receptions, the valuable goal line work, but having Pierre Strong in there more often than him, something that you got to make note of for sure.
Absolutely. Let's go to higher on wide receivers because you got 3 guys. Chris Olave, you still higher on him, honestly?
I think this is the big coming out party, and I have not said that yet.
Even with the police situation and everything like that, I don't know.
I think it prompts a breakout game. That's what I'm hoping for. I know you're probably frustrated if you have him. There's been no huge blow-up days, but he's got 10 targets or more in 4 of his 7 games, 15 last week. That adds up to the 7th most total, 68 in the across the season right now. He's first in total routes run. He's third in air yards. It's bound to come to fruition at some point. Indianapolis is top 5 in points allowed, 2 wide receiver ones on the other team. So I've gotten questions like, do I bench Olave for James Cook or some of these situations? And owners are frustrated right now. So I know most of you are probably starting Chris Olave, but I had to toss it on there in case you're in like a 2-receiver, 10-team league and you're getting frustrated. I think this is the blow-up game that we've all been kind of clamoring for.
Okay. All right, DJ Moore at the Chargers. You like him at 16. The experts actually only like him at 22. And basically you have written under here, bullet point number 1, Chargers are so bad.
So in caps locks, yeah. They are horrendous. Most points allowed, 2 wide receivers, most points allowed to quarterbacks. I know I have a higher on Donta Foreman. I think he's going to have a good day, but I think DJ Moore has an even better one. He had, underwhelming final stats with Tyson Bagent. I think it was 11 PPR points. Nothing horrible, but he got a whopping 35% target share. 89% of them were catchable. It was a clear cut. Go to your guy. Go to DJ Moore. First read targets were all over there, right to him. He was the wide receiver 19 in that week as well. And now that was a worse matchup, a harder time. So wide receiver 19 in his first game with Tyson Bagent. Now he's ranked as the wide receiver 22 in the ultimate gold mine matchup for wide receivers. And maybe they do force a script where Bagent has to throw more often. You know where he's going. It's going to be to DJ Moore. Wouldn't be shocked to see a 14 target and then huge day come out of him if they do force that negative game script where they're throwing it more and often. So I love DJ Moore. You can't have him on benches, even with that quarterback, quote unquote, downgrade. But I don't know. I don't know if it, at least
I'm not 100% sure it's a downgrade at this point.
At least arm talent wise. I know Justin Fields makes the whole offense more explosive and brings a lot more to the table.
This quarterback has like a certain amount of like cockiness to him almost.
Yeah, Shepherd University, baby. That D2 just like I'm a winner and I'm not going anywhere.
I don't hate it. I
kind of like the juice he brings, and his post-game speech was just like, I love all you. I appreciate you giving me your all. Like he had the locker room in one start. I like the kid. He really did show a little moxie.
Justin Fields has done nothing but lose in the NFL. Let's be real.
It's fair.
Tank Dell at Carolina. We've actually talked quite a bit about him. So I don't know. Some of it you might want to reiterate. No Robert Woods. Obviously, that's a factor. You like Dell to do something big this week, potentially.
Yeah, wide receiver 32, 6 spots above the ECR. I do think Woods being out certainly doesn't hurt. He's been among the team highest in routes and targets, despite doing very little with them. Tank was cooking before. I saw him getting dropped a ton of leagues. He's still only about 48% rostered. I don't understand that. I think he's got to be in lineups at minimum on benches and owned in your fantasy leagues. When he became a full-time starter in week 2, 20.2 and 25.5 PPR fantasy points, had over 20% target share in both. I get it. He had a dud against Pittsburgh, which should have been a good spot. But the next week, he was cooking again, 6.8 in the first quarter, on pace for another big 20-point blow-up day. He's a stud. He gets it done deep. He gets it done at the intermediate. He can get it done right off the screen game at the line. So shifty, despite his small size. He really has such great quicks to get away from his defenders. And even D'Amico Ryan saying getting Tank back is big for us. We can count on him for the big plays. He is pumped to have his guy back. I know CJ Stroud, who banged the table for this kid at the draft, is pumped to have him back. So I am all in on getting Tank Dell right back in the lineups. A lot of questions came in on him on Twitter. On the show so far, we've gotten quite a few Tank Dells. I love him. I'm in. I'm playing him again.
Guys that you're lower on, you got 2 of them, but you're really not much lower on either of these guys. Devonta Smith going against Washington, you like him at 21. The experts have him at 19. Michael Pittman, you like him at 31. The experts have him at 28.
Yeah, so not a huge discrepancy here, but I did want to get into those guys that you might be on the fringe of for. And in most cases, you're probably still playing these guys, but there's a reason to have caution if you have some people to sift through. Here's why Devonta Smith might be a little bit sketchier. Wide receiver 21, as you said, 2 spots below the ECR, because this is just the definition of an A.J. Brown blow-up week. He has a 50% target share against man coverage. That is number 1 in the league. 50% of the time. 1 out of every 2 passes is going to A.J. Brown on a team against a team that plays man coverage. Well, the Commanders play the second most man coverage in the league. Good Lord. Just think about what DJ Moore did on Thursday Night Football a couple weeks ago, and now you have A.J. Brown in that same exact smash spot. It's going to be beautiful. And meanwhile, Devonta Smith, this used to be a 1A, 1B, right around each other. I believe they were separated by 10 targets or fewer last year. It hasn't even been close. A.J. Brown's he's over a 30% target share on the year. Devonta Smith is sure at 20, and that's an okay target share, but man, it is not even close how that's going. And so far, last 4 games, 5, 11, 1, 7, and 7 across those games. Really bad. I mean, there's no way around it. 11 is his high since week 2. It's been pretty ugly there for Devonta Smith. And sure, this is the type of game where you feel like they could get up big and just kind of get right, feed Devonta Smith, get the guy going again. Maybe it could happen. Washington sucks, but I just could see it being another 50-point A.J. Brown monster blow-up day. So, yeah, I am definitely lower on Devonta Smith relative to ECR, and certainly based on his recent performances, I might need to be even a little lower than I am right now. Michael Pittman, it's more a bet on the fact that he only had 5 targets and 2 catches last week. I know it was a broken play on one of them. He ended up with 85 yards and a touchdown because of it. And I like the player. He really has thrived. The week before he had 14. So maybe it's a little bit too low on this guy. But I look at this New Orleans matchup. 5th most points allowed to the slot, where Josh Downs just is dominating right now. He's had 4 straight games of 13 or more fantasy points, including a 25-pointer last week. Josh Downs is killing it out of the slot. That's where New Orleans is very susceptible, but they're also conversely very good against outsides. Marshawn Lattimore seems like he's back at doing his thing here. 5th fewest points allowed to outside wide receivers, in particular wide receiver ones, struggling heavily against New Orleans. So given how much more vulnerable they are to the slot than the outside wide receivers, sure, you're probably playing Pittman, but if you have him and maybe even Tank Dell, there's some situations where I think you got to just have a little bit of a pause button with Michael Pittman, whereas he was a set and forget for so long.
All right, let's move to Hail Marys. You got 2. You got one who might be available and one who's almost certainly available. Kendrick Bourne going against Miami, only 41% owned still. It's a little surprising. He's had 2 very good games back-to-back weeks. At this point, I can't believe 60% of people haven't nabbed him, or 60% of leagues haven't nabbed him. I mean, he's been a top 10 wide receiver 2 weeks in a row. Pick the guy up if he's available in your league. Seriously. Also,
wide receiver 9 and 10, 19 and 18 points in his last 2 weeks. Now gets the Miami team, 12th most points allowed to wide receivers. They're definitely going to need to throw. We know Miami can put up points in bunches. I think the big difference in the catalyst for this breakout, he's had 91% or higher route share in 3 straight games after being 59, 73, and 55. A part-time player to a full-time player has resulted in 20%, 33%, and 24% target share here for Kendrick Bourne, getting a lot of those designed yak looks, moving all over the place. He's a player. He's got great chemistry here with Mac Jones. A big reason for this offense looking like they might click is Kendrick Bourne here. But yeah, you alluded to a guy that's out there in a lot more leagues, and this is a really cautious, desperation. It was tough to find a guy, honestly, that's less than 10% rostered. I wanted to get a true Hail Mary. That's the whole point of the segment. But Jalen Hyatt's still only 5% rostered. Now, had this been in a better matchup, I would have felt even better about this. But the Jets, really tough spot. I hope you don't have to go here. But at least at stashing Jalen Hyatt, led the team, was second rather among the wide receivers in snaps and routes. He was only behind Darren Waller last week in targets, and he did all right with it. 5 targets, 2 catches, 75 yards, a 42-yarder, a 33-yarder. The week before, 2 25-plus yard receptions. He's among a very elite crew in terms of who's done multiple 25-plus yard catches on the entire season, never mind in a 2-week span here. So he's shown some glimpses. We knew the kid could ball out based on his college film. He's been able to – a lot of people worried, he's just a slot product. He's just a scheme guy. But no, he's really been thriving this last year, 30% and 55% of the air yards. So when I'm taking a Hail Mary, if I'm this desperate, I'll go for the deep shot. I'll go for the bomb. And Tyrod Taylor's really looked good. So Jalen Hyatt, a guy I can get behind as a desperation Hail Mary.
Hey, I know we like to keep these segments kind of contained, like wide receiver, tight end, stuff like that. Before we get into tight end, get rid of that banner, Wolf.
Oh, yeah.
Texas Hustler has some words for us.
Hey, the Hustler. What's up, brother?
We love the Hustler. He threw us $5. He said, hit the like button, sub. Evans, Lockett, Flowers, Myers. I need one. Higgins or Henderson? We literally just asked this question before, and we were lukewarm on the answer. So you're going to get to hear us waffle about it a little bit more. Madison, Higgins, Henderson, Madison, and then I need one there. And then for flex, for flex, got you. Dallas, Texas is watching. Baby Gronk, Wolf, my ninjas.
Here we are. Baby Gronk, I love it for you over there, Truth. I know that always
Baby Gronk, who is like 15 years older than actual Gronk, or 10 years probably.
Yeah, Baby Gronk as an adult. Benjamin Button.
I was literally just about to say exactly
synced up there. So for the wide receiver question, that first one, I got to go Mike Evans. He's just been such a good fit with Baker Mayfield. They're down the Bills. They're 2 starting corners. We know they're going to have to throw the rock to try to keep pace tonight. I just got to go Evans. I know it's not the ideal matchup, but again, down their top 2 corners, I think this is where Evans could get it done, and we know Baker's consistently giving him his shots to thrive. I do really love Zay Flowers and Myers, both also fringe top 20 guys for me, but I do have Evans about 5 spots higher than the rest of these guys. So I got to ride him out, no doubt about it. And then you got Higgins, Henderson, Madison. Certainly not Madison for me. As we talked about higher, lower Hail Mary, I think you might have been here, Texas Hustler, for that. But Madison, I think he's lost that job to Cam Akers. I wouldn't be shocked at all if we see a much higher dose of Cam Akers this week than Alexander Madison for the first time. So Higgins versus Henderson, I mean, I hate hedging. It is one of those situations where like Henderson is the safe, nice floor play where you're probably going to get 12. Maybe you get to 15 if he finds the end zone. I will say eyeball test-wise, he didn't look great. He was pretty sluggish out there. He had some great pass protection. He's reliable. He's going to get his snaps. He's going to get his touches. And at running back, you don't have to be that good for it to matter. But it is against the Cowboys defense, one of the tougher matchups for running backs. I'm leaning Higgins. I think this is the Higgins. I come out. I'm healthy finally. And it's time to go. I'm going to bump him up the rankings because the more I talk about him, I don't know why. It's just in my gut that Higgins.
You really are talking yourself into Higgins. Like throughout this episode, you've just been like gassing yourself up so much talking about him to the point where now I'm kind of gassed up too. And I'm probably going to start him and I'm just going to be so furious when he gets.
It's just kind of, I'm tailing my Burrow hype and I do feel great about Burrow, but I really think Higgins is going to come out swinging. Like it's been such a down year. I think he's finally healthy. I don't know. It's tricky. He's certainly riskier. If somebody here is just going to disappear, it is Higgins. You know, Jamar Chase has
disappear. He's already gone. He's not going to disappear. He's already gone, man.
I don't know. I think this is where he reappears. So I'm going to go T Higgins here in most cases. But if you're a heavy favorite hustler or you just want the safe 10, I think Henderson's getting you 10 to 15. But Higgins just feels like he's so due for that blow up. I think that the 49ers secondary certainly can be beat. And they got that bye week to scheme for him. We just saw 378 yards dropped on him. Without Justin Jefferson there. Very susceptible to big play, too. So I think Higgins is going to be on benches, and he's going to have one of those 2-touchdown monster Higgins days, and people are just going to be kicking themselves. I don't know. It's a gut call, though. There's really not a ton of data to support Higgins this year. There's really none. He's done nothing so far. But I don't know. If you want to trust the gut, you go with Higgins. If you want the safe floor play, you go Henderson. But I'm leaning Higgins here.
All right, I agree with Wolf on both of his picks.
Do you? You go Higgins too?
Well, I mean, I was on the fence already. I mean, I texted you last night asking about Higgins Henderson. I had this exact same question. I do like them both more than Madison, I think. And I want it to be Higgins. And so like it didn't take much for you to push me in that direction. But yeah, okay, I agree with the Wolf.
Yeah.
We're going with it. Let's go to tight end. Thanks again, Texas
draft capital. Let your guy earn his draft capital.
Right, and I spent money on him. Henderson, I picked up off waivers for free. I spent at least $20 on T. Higgins.
Yeah,
maybe more like 30 probably. All right, tight end higher. Taysom Hill. You actually only like him one more than the experts. You like him at 12. They like him at 13. He's both exhilarating and frustrating to own.
Yeah, but I do think we could get a little bit more stability. It depends if Juwan Johnson's back. I might have to take back just a little bit. But over the last couple of weeks, his role has really steadied out with a 62 and 71% route participation compared to a season high of just 43% last year. It's a nice steady role. He saw a whopping 8 targets just a couple of weeks ago and was the PPR. He had a really solid day. He's been actually the PPR tight end 6 in back-to-back weeks, 12.1 in week 6 with 7 catches, 49 yards, and a rushing opportunity. 9 opportunities there for the guy. A tight end, that's no joke. Then the next week he follows that up with 5 targets, but then also 5 carries. So back-to-back 9 opportunity weeks, back-to-back tight end 6 finishes. And he had a nice 16.8 day because he had a rushing touchdown there. So we always know that he's a threat every week to rush in at least 1 score. I mean, last year he had a 34-point day too. So when you're rolling around the weeds in tight ends, like you can have a tight end that could potentially get you 20 to 30 points. You got to take that stab when you're taking such a low risk. But the better part about Taysom Hill is now he's balanced out by those targets, by the route participation. Again, if Juwan Johnson's back, we might see that cut, and then the floor does get a lot lower, but the upside would still be there, though. So I like Taysom Hill, back-to-back tight end 6. Now the tight end 12 in my rankings, still above the ECR. I think you can go to him as a tight end 1 this week.
Jake Ferguson, you were lower on, and you put in the copy here. He finally saw a season high 86% of the routes, a complete full-time role, and he had 1 target, 1 catch for 15 yards. A 3%
target share.
Right.
It was the only really good day Dak had, and Jake Ferguson did absolutely nothing. And so he's got a great matchup. Second most points allowed by the Rams to the tight end position, but he just doesn't look great. He only has 1 game above 10 points. That was 11 in week 4. Otherwise, he's had he had a 7 target, 7 catch day, and he got to 9 half PPR points, and he's okay, but as his routes have gone up, his targets have somehow just gone the exact opposite direction. I think it's a matter of Gallup getting himself fully healthy, Brandon Cooks getting a little more acclimated to the offense, and it's just not a great pass-happy team. So I'm lower on Dak. I'm certainly lower on his tight end this week too, despite a beautiful matchup.
All right, last but not least, Trey McBride for your Hail Mary. We talked about him last week. We both really like him for some reason. I just saw him and he just kind of jumped off the page or out of the screen to me. I was like, wow, who is that? Just as far as athletically, I don't really know much about him except, man, he looked like a, pickup truck, like blasting through like a crowd of, people, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Absolutely. Anytime a grown man hurdles another grown man on a football field, you got to take notice. And great after the catch. That's what he did all of his college career. In fact, he had 90 catches and 1,121 yards as a college tight end. That's insane. You never hear that in production. He was a 99th percentile as a result of his great production, 99th percentile dominator rating with 46.3% of his team's yards, scores, all that wrapped into it. He was the offensive engine over there at Colorado State. So he has a track record of being a key zoned-in weapon. As you said, great hyper-athletic, 87th percentile 40, 80th percentile speed score. He definitely get it done after the catch. That was a huge strength of his. The only thing was he was just lacking for field time because for whatever reason, they've been trotting out the corpse of Zach Ertz here, who's now on IR, though. And ultimately, we've seen his snaps and routes going up 48%, 51% routes with Ertz on the field. I imagine that's going to bump up for Trey McBride to 75% this next week. And we saw last year as a rookie, and this was the number 1 rookie tight end of last year's class by a mile. We saw last week, he didn't really have any huge days. He wasn't really seeing a full-time role, but then Ertz got hurt, and there was 1 week towards the end of the year, 10 targets, 7 catches, 78 yards, a touchdown, a 20-point day. We've seen him do it as a rookie. I wouldn't be shocked if he does it again here, and Kyler Murray may be back, probably not this week, but at minimum, a great guy to have on your bench. Let's see what he does. You don't get tight ends with this type of athleticism, this type of college track record that are widely available in your leagues, and they lead their second right now in total tight end target share behind only the Chiefs right now as a team. And yes, Zach Ertz was a lot of that, and you can't just be like, yeah, Trey McBride's going to get all of everything they've been getting, but it is a staple of this offense to target the position, and now he has a much clearer path to get a lot of looks. So I'm a huge fan of Trey McBride. I think he could absolutely be a solid stream this week, and at minimum, an interesting bench stash to see what he does.
Fair enough. And we just like that, we have made it all the way to the mailbag. Still 7:45, so we got minimum half hour to hit this. We want.
I love it. Yeah, plenty of time to hit it for you folks.
Yeah. So let's start hitting it, and we'll start off. Why don't you do the banners, Wolf?
We'll pull in our guy real quick, Mr. Campanelli. What's going on, sir?
Quick question: Schultz or Hill at tight end?
I do got to go Schultz there. I really am a big fan of Dalton Schultz. He's been the tight end 6 or better for 3 straight weeks, really increasing his role every week in that offense. We know C.J. Stroud, big fan of the Texans passing game, like the matchup against Carolina this week. He's been a beast these last few weeks. I can't bench him. Even though I like Taysom Hill, I like the consistency of Dalton Schultz, just a few spots more.
I'm probably going with Schultz also, but if like what you're really chasing specifically is the tight end that has a better chance to throw for a couple touchdowns and maybe break a 65-yard run out of the backfield, I would probably go with Hill. Also, more likely to just get 0.
Yeah, exactly. You got to go with Schultz. Definitely the higher floor, similar ceilings at this point.
You're like, oh, why did I bench Taysom Hill? Like he threw 3 touchdowns. It's like you can't really count on that. Yeah,
sounds great, guys. Thank you.
Great to see you, Campanelli. And if anybody else wants to cut the line similar to Campanelli, the call-in link is in the description, or you could hit us with that super chat. We'd be happy to pull you in here and have you cut the line. But yeah, let's dive in.
If you want to skip the line, basically it takes a super chat or you have to moderate the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. You had to earn your keep here.
But Campanelli's already got that job, so
and as we dive in, Bulldog reminded you guys, please do smash the like button as we get through all your questions. It would mean the world as we get out to more people. And if you're new here and you haven't already, please consider subscribing. We love having you. We got the good vibes with the Wolfpack every 4 times a week, answering your questions, getting live for you. Let's start with Bulldogs here. This is a good one. 2 of the more intriguing waiver wire guys.
Josh Downs or Rashee Rice? Who you like?
I love them both. This is really hard, Bulldog. I wish he had told me PPR versus not. As we talked about, New Orleans, great slot matchup, 5th most points allowed to slot receivers. But then you look at Denver on the other side. Oh, what a juicy matchup for Rashee Rice, whose routes continue to go up and up and up every single week. Rice does have the ceiling, but to me, it's got to be Josh Downs. 13-plus PPR points in 4 straight weeks. Every week with Gardner Minshew, he's gotten better and better and better. I'm definitely a big fan of Josh Downs. That's where I'm going. What about you?
Agree. I would go with Downs.
Cool. I'm going to pull this up, grab a drink while you talk about it, and I'll be right back.
All right. Giuseppe wants to know White, KJ Osborne, or Devin Singletary in the flex. With me, I'm probably not starting Singletary, even though I see the opportunity there. I would probably – this is tough. For me, it's between White and KJ Osborne. Depends what you need, but I would probably lean Osborne. I don't know. I'm always kind of a sucker for Osborne for some reason.
Yeah, I lean Osborne too. I mean, White, it's crazy. Actually, is only behind Christian McCaffrey in route share among running backs. He's been a dominant in terms of volume and on field time. He just doesn't do anything with the work. And now he's got the Bills team that they actually are a little susceptible to the run, a little softer against the run than the pass. I don't know. I agree with you. We crossed Singletary off the list. It does come down to the other 2. I will say I've been a little disappointed with Osborne.
I have too. That's why I'm like hesitating at all. Like I feel like it should be pretty obvious that he's the pick, but I am hesitating a little bit on White.
I'm going to go White here. I don't usually love Rachaad White, and for good reason. He hasn't done a whole lot, but the volume is just there. This defense is a little banged up. He could get the one thing is he won't get game flowed out because he is such a involved receiver. He had 6 catches for 65 yards last week. I like White there. I'm going to go Rachaad White. Although if you have a comparable running back, put the other running back in the flex. Don't punish somebody unnecessarily. But yeah, I'd put Rachaad White in the running back too and move a running back to the flex to be safe if you can.
Yeah. Next up, who to pick up, Darrell Henderson or Roschon Johnson for the next 3 weeks?
If it's just for 3 weeks, I think it's Darrell Henderson. I mean, Roschon could have the more upside, but I think Foreman has staked his claim to that role. He's going to be the clear backup, whereas we got Henderson as the clear starter at this point. So I'm going to go Henderson there. Better offense, too.
Start Pierce or Javonte Williams? I'm starting Javonte Williams.
Me too.
Sutton or Garrett Wilson? That's tough. I might lean Sutton. Yeah, I'd probably lean Sutton. I can't believe I'm saying that.
I'm going to go Garrett Wilson. He's been really rock solid, even with Zach Wilson thrown to him. Just a locked-in target share there. I mean, Sutton has been really, really good. Just Kansas City's great against number 1 wide receivers. He did sneak into the end zone last time against them, but that was really the only thing he did. It's kind of salvaged a otherwise very mediocre day. Kansas City's got a great pass defense, just good defense in general. Giants on the other side for Garrett Wilson, fresh off a bye. I
forgot that matchup. Forget it. I'm going Wilson. Yeah. I forgot about the matchup. Never mind.
Yeah, solid matchup. And then, we're both locked in on Javonte, who's looked as good as he's looked since getting hurt. I think he looks awesome these last couple of weeks. Dameon Pierce, the opposite of looking awesome. So, let's go Javonte there.
All right, so Krana has got a food question for us, as is part
As always. Love it,
right?
Krana.
And then like 5 other football questions, which we can rapid fire.
All right, we'll rapid fire those. Yeah, for sure. I'll pull up the banners here.
As far as the food question, he says the Wolf Truth, new beer. Yeah, okay. If we hit it big, the two of us should at the very least get a Ben and Jerry's flavor or something like that.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And
that'd be awesome.
He says, favorite fries. For me, it's garlic fries. What are your favorite fries, Wolf? I can think of 2 possible answers to this question.
I do like garlic fries. I love truffle parm fries, though. Like good garlic parm, truffle parm fries. Ooh, tasty stuff. But it's hard to go against like chili cheese fries too.
I was going to say chili cheese.
Is that what you were doing? Sorry to steal yours.
I kind of feel like it's cheating almost, because it's like you're not even talking about the fries at that point. Like, because there's so many things you can throw, like loaded like waffle bacon. There's this place here that
waffle fries,
waffle bacon maple fries or something, and it's like crack. But then we're not really talking about the fries anymore. We're just talking about what you can throw on the fries, which is endless. But the other thing I would say, then this is going to take things back, 20, 30 years or whatever. But McDonald's fries in the 90s and late 80s were crack. And now they are nowhere near as good now. But if you're just talking about fries straight up without toppings, man, like when I was like a teenager, McDonald's fries, I
just like crisp.
Could eat thousands of them. Yes.
Yeah.
They're different now. Anyway, now let's talk football. Pierce or White, PPR?
White. Yeah. I just never going to be Pierce for me.
Right.
And I think he does okay to just answer your question. Like the target share is there, the route share is there. So he's never going to get game flowed out, which is what you like about Pierce.
Flex 1 PPR, Ridley, Myers, Watson, or Downs?
I like Myers, especially in full PPR. He's so good and consistent with Jimmy G. Yeah.
I agree. PPR Flex 1, Mostert, Foreman, Hopkins, and then PPR, he also needs one, Garrett Wilson, Higgins, Watson, or Downs.
So I'm going to go Mostert for sure. I know it's a little sketchy. Last week was rough, but that was against an elite defense in the Eagles.
Still the RB2. He's still the RB2. You can't just go benching the guy. Even when Achane gets back, he still has massive fantasy value unless he gets hurt.
And until then, he's got such a last time against the Patriots, he had I was there at the game. I think he had a 30-point fantasy day. He killed us. So
he's been like the RB1 like 3 different times, I think.
Yeah, and I go Garrett Wilson. We already talked about loving that matchup against the Giants.
Right.
Higgins is intriguing, but I still go Garrett Wilson there.
Yeah, I agree. And last but not least, need 2 PPR. Olave, Addison, London, and Dell. Thanks, guys. Are we going to try weird food and sauces one day? I hope so, dude.
Yeah, Chicago, Krana was saying is where he's from. I'd love to hang out with Krana in Chicago and eat some good food or get you up here. I can show you all the good food in this area.
Well, we should go to Chicago. That'd be a good RSJ trip, or at least a good.
That would be. Yeah, a little summit, meet some fans down there. That'd be awesome. I got to go the first 2 here. Olave, as we talked about, 68 targets, 7th in the league, 15 last week. He's so overdue in a good matchup against the Colts. And then Addison, how would you bench him coming off a last Monday night? Kid's a stud. He has arrived. He's shown that I can be the true alpha, Kirk, and I imagine that just continues there. So I love Dell. You know that, and I like London, but those first 2 are a couple tiers above for me.
Agree. Is B-Rob droppable?
Oh, man, you have to have a pretty thin league. Now, here's the deal. I'm very upset that, what's his name? Chris Rodriguez, I think, is now getting involved.
No.
A 3-headed nightmare on a bad team. It is ugly. But B-Rob, he's had 20-point days. He's been steady. He's still getting touchdowns. You'd have to be in a really shallow league to have to drop B-Rob, in my opinion.
He got shot.
He did. And now he's back.
I know, and he's back, and he's pretty good. Nah,
he's a locker room presence. At nothing else, your team rallies around a guy like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't drop him. Half-point PPR. Flex, Stevenson, McLaurin, or Palmer?
Oh, good options. And I'm really into Palmer these days. I feel like McLaurin, though, coming off of back-to-back 9+ target days, he seems to really be rounding into that wide receiver 1 for his team form. I think I'm leaning McLaurin here. They're going to need to chuck against the Eagles, and he's been an Eagles killer historically. So I kind of like McLaurin.
I like McLaurin also. I feel pretty much exactly the same way you do. I like McLaurin. I'm intrigued by Palmer. Stevenson would clearly be my last choice on this.
Yeah, he's so ugly this year. Ugh.
I know. I hate that. Going into the season, he would have been my favorite person on the list.
Yeah.
Second league, half-point PPR. I need 2 wide receivers and a flex. Ayuk, Wilson, Collins, Myers, JT, Gibbs.
A lot of intriguing options here.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, they're all good. Half PPR, need 2 receivers and a flex. Okay, so for the receivers, I have a hard time benching Ayuk. It is tricky with Darnold, but I still think I ride Ayuk there.
I'm playing Ayuk.
And I think I go Garrett Wilson over Myers very slightly. I mean, Nico Collins is awesome too. These are great options, Lucio.
Yeah.
This is really tough. I personally go your first 2, Ayuk and Wilson. And then I'm going Gibbs over JT, especially if we get word that Montgomery's ruled out. If it seems like Montgomery's trending towards being in, we got to flip that, and Gibbs becomes a clear second fiddle. Before we saw last week, 87% of the snaps, 90% of the rushes, 20-something fantasy points for Gibbs as the clear lead back. That's what we were expecting. That's what we wanted out of this kid. So, yeah, I like Gibbs a little bit more than JT, who's still stuck in that timeshare with Zach Moss. So the volume just feels a lot better for him. So I go Gibbs, Ayuk, and Wilson here.
Yeah, I agree with those picks, actually. And we remember what happened. I don't expect Montgomery to play, but we remember what happened last time he came back from injury. He had like 3 touchdowns and like 150 yards or something. I forget what it was.
Exactly.
He was incredible. Yeah. Omar, super chat. Omar's been he's a pretty consistent super chatter. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Omar. Consistently supporting your boys. It's not unnoticed. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, man, we really do appreciate it. Need one between Rachaad White, Henderson, Gus the Bus, or wait for Monty. Don't wait for Monty.
Nah, it doesn't seem like he's turning the right way, and especially with that bye week looming, I would probably go. I don't know about Rachaad White or Henderson, and Gus Bus is in a good matchup too. This is a really tough one. I always like when a super chat comes in and I have like a clear answer for you, and I have a good reason for it. I don't have a great reason for any of these guys. Rachaad White, we know his game flow. You can't get game flowed out. The second most routes among all running backs behind only McCaffrey and route share. So part of me wants to lean him in a pretty good matchup tonight. I saw him lower than him in my rankings. So, man, I got to probably bump him up too because that's tonight's game. Man, this is a tough one. Do you have any leaning here, Truth?
I would lean Henderson, and I would not feel great about it.
Yeah, so I have them ranked Edwards 23rd, Rachaad White 24, Henderson 26. I think I'm going to flip White and Edwards tonight. I'm going to do that flip now. I did have Edwards the highest. He does get Arizona. I mean, what a soft defense, 4th most points allowed to backs. Gus is coming off a huge day, 21-point day. It came at the back of a broken tackle, though, on an 80-yard reception. Otherwise, he's been very mediocre, 5'6", 5'6", then 21. So I'm looking at Rachaad White. We had that, a 13-point day last week, running back 16. He had a 19-point day, but otherwise he's been largely abysmal.
Largely abysmal.
I don't know. Omar, man, this is a tough one. My rankings do say Gus, and part of me just thinks like they steamroll the Cardinals and Gus gets his. So you know what? I'm not even gonna change my rankings. I'm looking at them and I feel okay. I had Gus higher entering it. I'm gonna ride that out. It's full PPR though. That does change it because we know the receiving upside for Rachaad White. So
maybe White's the play.
I think in a full PPR. So let me just double check his game logs in full because Gus gets nothing in full. That doesn't help him at all. Meanwhile, White's now at 21-7, 11-7, and 16. So even last week, he gets close to that blow-up game for Gus. Yeah, I'm gonna go Rachaad White just because I do think the receiving, the PPR does kind of edge it out. I was looking for a sign to help me feel better, and I think in that full PPR setting, you got to feel a little bit better about Rachaad White. So I'm gonna go him. I'm gonna go him with that receiving workload.
All right,
and,
let's do just a couple more. Thanks again, Omar. By the way.
Let's
do just a couple more, and then you should rapid fire because we did such a good job on the first part. I want to make sure we actually finish by kickoff. So why don't we pick things back up with Tunes here? And Tunes says, first off, it's okay. I didn't know you were back.
I got it. Yep. Perfect.
Tunes says, first off, I'm safe in Maine. Second, I just shot a doe about 45 minutes ago. Well, assuming that's what you're up there to do, that's great news. Yeah,
I'm glad. Good hunting there for you. Stay safe up there. Scary situation up there in Maine, though. Crazy. Oh, yeah. So that's scary. Awesome. Prayers up for everybody up in Maine. Yeah. Awful
Daniel, stuff. Lamar or Herbert? Wow.
Got to go Lamar. I mean, you got jacked options there, but Lamar is cooking. That offense looks as good as it's ever looked with him. He looked as good of a passer as I've ever seen him look. And they're in a good spot this week against the Cardinals just to destroy them. So, yeah, I'm going to go Lamar. Even though Herbert's got a good spot against Chicago, they have been sneaky better these last few weeks. So I'm going to go Lamar.
All right, Olave, Pittman, Sutton, Rice, or Evans, non-PPR. First,
I told you we were going to get Olave questions. That's why I put him in my higher, lower Hail Mary.
I always do double takes when someone says non-PPR. I'm like, what?
Yeah, standard league. That does change things for Olave too, because now we're looking at touchdowns as the more important stat. And I do think you got to go Evans in that case. A proven historic touchdown scorer, guy that can get deep. You're really just prioritizing big plays and touchdowns in a non-PPR standard league like that. So, yeah, that's where I roll.
All right, well, start rattling these off. I'll jump in.
All right, let's go. Waller to Kincaid. I'm going Waller, tight end 5 on the year, really killing it these last few weeks. So I'm sticking with him. Gabe Davis, T. Higgins, Kittle, or Tank Dell for the flex. Comes down to T or Tank for me. I would not do Gabe tonight, Giuseppe. I know we'll see you on Sunday. So we'll really see how good I'm feeling about T come Sunday. I want to keep reading the information on him. I am leaning Tank Dell there, though. Kincaid or Dell PPR. I'm going to go Dell. I like Kincaid a lot, but I never like double flexing tight ends myself. Who would you like for defense for Omar? Dolphins, Falcons, or Chargers? I like the Dolphins against the Pats. I think that's a great spot. Eric E. Great analysis by you guys, and he loves the beer. The important part here is the beer. So in that case, I should probably chug another one for you. But thank you, Eric. I appreciate you coming in. I don't recognize your name, so if you haven't already, please do sub and come back for more. We love having fans that appreciate a good beer. That's what we're here for.
And analysis, and they appreciate analysis.
They appreciate the analysis. Secondary, of course. The beer is more important. For the flex play from George, James Cook, Darrell Henderson, or Roschon. Oh, James Cook for sure, George, over those other guys. Definitely get him in tonight. Then we got my running backs are Pollard, JT, and Jones. What 2 do I start? I'm going to go Pollard and JT. I'm going to bench Aaron Jones for now, Gavin. Till he's off the injury report, I have a very hard time trusting him. We did get a super chat coming in here from Mitch Chavez, another legend from the RSJ crew. Here we go. Can't believe we're halfway through the season already, boys. I agree, Mitch. It's crazy. Just supporting the cause. Oh, just saying hi, supporting the cause. Doesn't even have a question. You're the man, Mitch. You're a legend. We love you. Thank you so much for the support.
Hey, man, thanks a lot. That's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of generosity tonight. Thank you, guys. You guys are awesome.
It's good to see you again, Mitch. It's been too long.
Yeah. All right, let me find my place here. I want to keep rapid fire in that. We were at George Play. We got the Collins, and then we got our man Gavin. Thank you, Drew. We just answered that one. So we're on Spencer Graves, and I'll grab it from there. Whites versus the Bills or Henderson versus Cowboys? I'm going to go White, especially in a full PPR. Spencer Graves. Trade away Waller for Kincaid and Tank. Mike, I actually kind of like that deal. I think Kincaid's on the verge of a breakout. I think Tank, you know my feelings on him, especially if you need the depth. If you don't need the depth, I'm usually a fan of trading away depth to get one stud. But I really like Tank and I really like Kincaid. So I would at least consider this. I know you kind of sniffed your nose at it, Truth, and said,
No, I actually was just sniffing my nose because I'm a little congested. You just
I thought you were giving Mike the face.
No, I didn't mean it like that. I guess, but one dissent I would give there is I agree with you. I'll give up depth to get a stud. I don't necessarily see a stud in that deal. I'm not sure I feel like Waller right now is kind of coming into his own. I think he's literally a top 5 guy. His last 3 games have all been pretty good. I'm not sure I would make that deal, although I wouldn't think you were crazy if you did. But he doesn't rise to the level of like, I'm landing a real stud here.
I like Kincaid and Tank on that side of things.
Okay.
Dylan Fink, what's up, boys? We starting Mixon, Hunt, or James Cook? I'd probably go James Cook very slightly over. Mixon's good too, but Mixon gets San Fran. I'm going to go James Cook tonight. He's been looking real good. No Vita Vea. Yeah, that makes it even more intriguing for James Cook. A huge cog up there in the middle. It's a really good point, Dylan. So I'm going to go James Cook there. Foreman outlook with Roschon coming back. I still like Roschon. We talked about him in higher, lower, Hail Mary, Mike, so I'm sure you were here watching that. Was offered Swift for Jefferson. I would get Swift. My other running backs are Mixon and Cook, and my receivers are Adams, Naku, and Ayuk. On your team, Sarah, I'd consider it, but, Jefferson's the best. I would try to get more than just Swift. I don't think I'd do this deal with Jefferson due back in a week now. You've already gutted it out this time.
Sarah Riley's teams are always stacked.
They're always stacked. It's so brutal. Kincaid or Schultz for Nick R. I'm going to go Kincaid there. Thanks as always. Friendly reminder, smash that like and bell. Thank you, Charlie, as always. We appreciate it. And thank you for that super chat earlier. Would you flex Ayuk, White, Watson, or Javante? I'm going to go Ayuk there, Sarah Riley. Tua or Jackson? Definitely Lamar Jackson for me, Luke. And I love Tua, but I mean, Lamar is just cooking too much. Trade Pollard for Breece Hall and Kirk? Yes. I mean, I think Breece Hall and Pollard are almost neck and neck, and Kirk's a stud. He's really just been awesome this year. So, yeah, as much as I love Pollard this year, he just has not been the thing.
Kirk's the wide receiver 17 this year.
Yeah, there you go. Foreman or Hunt? I'm going to go Foreman there, Davey Dave. Should I start Kincaid or Palmer at flex? I would go Palmer there, Aram. He's been really cooking these last few weeks. Cam Daddy asking if we answer questions. Of course, that's what we're doing. Thank you, though, for hopefully sticking around. We'll see what you got. Would you trade Kamara and DK for Amon-Ra? I don't think so. Kamara is just that damn good. I don't know. You got the team that could potentially shoulder that, and you need the receivers, it sounds. But I just feel like you're giving up too much there because you're in a good spot. Better dynasty QB, Carr or Howell? Probably Howell for the longevity, but who knows if he'll even be a starter. But Carr's on his back nine here. What's up, Billy Jagir? Happy Thursday to you. Full PPR, need a flex and super flex. Addison, James Cook, Minshew, Mac Jones. Minshew for the super flex. I'm going to go Addison there for the regular flex. All righty. Start. Drake London, Amari Cooper, or Christian Watson at flex. I'm going to go. We know that Cooper is playing with PJ Walker now. I kind of want to go Drake London.
I'm going
I don't
London.
love it, though. Definitely come back, Arthur, on Sunday, and we can give it to you. Nick, Jim Coop. I'm trying to picture who Jim Coop is because he knows my real name, and that's not many of you do. But Jim, what's up? In a PPR, not sure I should go with Godwin, who's dinged up, or start Tank Dell or Osborne. I'd probably I think you're okay with Godwin with the banged up corners tonight. I have him just above Tank Dell. But if you're on the fence, you feel sketchy about it, I love Tank Dell. I have Godwin just a few spots higher. So if you don't like it, you don't want to put him in, I can justify that. And I would say go with Tank Dell if you wanted to. But I personally would go Godwin. What do you think about that one, Godwin versus Tank Dell?
I mean, you've really been hyping Tank Dell here on this episode. I would my instinct would be Godwin, but I don't know. Like
12 targets last week. I mean, he's been really getting.
I can guess myself with all this Tank talk, but I would go Godwin.
I go Godwin there too. Drop Musgrave for Freiermuth Dynasty. Yeah, I think you can. I like Freiermuth in Dynasty. I know he's been banged up all year, but he entering the year in Dynasty, he was a top 7 guy. So yeah, I think you pick him up. Should I trade Jacobs and Hawkinson for Breece, Ingram, and JSN? Yeah, I think so. Jacobs has been such a disappointment. I love Breece there. Hawkinson's I don't know, though. Hawkinson's been such a stud, Isaac. That's a tough one. I don't feel great about it, but if you need to switch things up, it's not unfair. Pick 2, Devonta Smith, Sutton, Rashad White. Leaning Sutton and White. Yeah, I think you get I like the receivers, actually. In a half PPR, I kind of like the receivers. Rashad or Kareem Hunt for Jaws. I'm going to go – everybody asked about Rashad White. He should have been the banner guy tonight. I'm going to go Kareem Hunt there. I feel pretty good about him and his role there in a good offense, a good Cleveland run game. Cook tonight? Yes, I'm yelling. Or Olave or Ridley. I'm going to go Olave over Cook. Yelling, baby. There we go. Wolf, thanks for helping me turn. Hey, I'm glad to hear you're turning the season around. C&W, White Massey. Would I be crazy to start Foreman over Mixon? No, not crazy. I think I have Mixon maybe a spot higher, but it's not crazy by any means. And would you trade Mixon and Waddle for Bijan? I think so, but man, Bijan, Arthur Smith, I don't know that I want to get a part of that ride, honestly. I like that you're thinking of packaging those guys, but I don't know that I'm going to aim for Bijan right now. Start Cook tonight, or I would go Olave there, Phil C. Bijan or Breece rest of season? I think I had Bijan higher on the big board, but honestly, the more I've thought about it, I kind of like Breece. I'm really into Breece rest of the year. Mike. Bryce Ridley. Thoughts on Aaron Jones and Kenneth Walker? I think both play. I think Kenneth Walker is certainly more safe. I don't trust Aaron Jones with all this. Foreman for Higgins. I'd rather have Higgins. I think you're buying low on Higgins. I think Foreman's peaking his value these next week or two, and then he's not going to be not much. When Herbert comes back, you're dealing with a 3-headed nightmare potentially. Juan Pena always here at the shows. Wide receiver 2, 1, and flex spot. Jacoby Myers, Lockett, Dobbs, Towns, Dylan, Cooper, Curtis, Tank Dell, or Schultz. Just dump out the whole freaking team
I know.
on Kenya. I'm going to go full PPR, Jacoby Myers. I'm going to go Tank Dell, and I'm going to go Josh Downs there. Mitch, thank you so much. Hope all is well with you too, my man. Ray Gamer, I have a question for my flex option, assuming Monty is out. Metcalf, Christian Watson, Kareem Hunt, or Downs. Standard league in points. So standard, I think I go Metcalf. Bigger play, touchdown upside. Kareem Hunt, though, is very intriguing in a touchdown-only type of format where he's been really ripping the touchdowns. So to me, it comes down to Kareem or Metcalf. I actually kind of like Kareem there. I don't know. That's tough. And then Dustin Hopkins. I like Hopkins. I mean, how can you not? 19 and 22 points, or 17 and 22 points, 19 and a half his last 2 games, Ray Gamer. I'm going to keep riding that hot leg. 50-yarder in 5 straight games. I mean, NFL record. Liam Hannaberry. Trade Mixon and Ramondre for B-Rob, Monty, and T. I mean, I like Montgomery the most there.
Montgomery's the best guy. Yeah, I would do that. I would do that deal, yeah. I want the Montgomery side there, yeah. Got a general question. 5 slots for running back, receiver, 6 great options. Who do I stick? Bijan, Stephon, not Diggs, not Bijan, I mean, you do have great options. Wow.
I think I bench Taylor here just because until he separates from Moss, he's kind of the distant ones in the workload. Why ask questions for free when you can support the cause? Great question, Omar. Everybody.
That was a question, Omar.
Yes, good question. Best question of the night. Rashad or Godwin at flex? I think I prefer Rashad, but it's close, Patrick. I need a win for bragging rights. First place. Playing at first place, my 11-year-old stepson, both 6-1. Love that battle there, Omar. 6-1 battle, civil war in the household. You gotta love that. Good luck, man. I hope you hope you beat the shit out of your 11-year-old stepson.
Right.
Oh man, Alan Batt. Start Mike Evans or Drake London. Definitely Mike Evans there, for sure. Alan Batt. Would you trade Henry Chase for Jacobs, Laporta, Hopkins? No, I would not do that.
No.
Would you start Evans or Collins or London as 3? I would go Evans there. Collins is close. Roberto Perez. Would you all trade Pollard and Rashid for Bijan and Kareem Hunt? I like the Pollard Rashid side more.
Me too.
And yeah, I don't have the time to look at your whole team. Sorry, Roberto. Start Gabe, Rashid Rice, or Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers for me, Lucius. Kincaid or Waller. I'm going Waller. Do I put in Gabe Davis? It depends on who your other option is. Javian, let me know who it is, and I'll give you a name. Brees secured. Nice. Traded for Brees. I love Brees all the rest of the year, Mike Clay. He's got a nice schedule, too. Got a lot of slop from Fatty Mateo. A lot of slop at running back, too. Gus, Roschon, Madison, Chuba. Yeah, that is a lot of slop. That's a great
slop, Fatty.
That is a lot of slop, Fatty boy. I like Gus the most there. I'm not going to lie. The Arizona matchup just seems nice. Full PPR makes it a little tough, but with Madison kind of losing this job to Akers, I think you got to go Gus bust. Chuba not far, but I don't know if he's the starter full-time yet.
No, it's a lot of slop.
A lot of slop. Gross stuff. All righty, Wolfpack. That gets us there right ahead of kickoff. 2 weeks in a row, baby. Let's go. Best of luck. Let's go, Josh Allen. Tonight, got him in 4 or 6 leagues. Need a big night from my guy. About to go meet up with my buddy who I'm facing. Longtime rival, kindergarten buddy. Can't wait. We're going to have some pizza, watch the game, have a couple beers, and see how we do. So thanks again so much for tuning in. On your way out, if you didn't hit the thumbs up or the sub, please consider doing so. We'd love to have you for more. We'll be live next on Sunday, 10:45 a.m., and, of course, your recap show that night as well. And a wolf for Fancy Sheep, guys. Be the wolf. Later.
Later.